It says that I'm live, 5x5 Scuba Rob. Thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. It is the 22nd of July, 2025. I'm pretty sure today's Tuesday. Say Tuesday?
Yep.
Yep. I got a yup from Lauren. So must be Tuesday. We're gonna kind of scroll through the news today and do more of a cursory overview, not necessarily a deep dive, although I do think there's some interesting talking points. I do think there's a couple of teaching points. But I've been on the road speaking and teaching for, I don't know, the last 5 or so days, and I'm just getting caught back up with this incessant news cycle that we all exist in right now. So probably not a whole lot of deep analysis today, but some opinion, some conjecture, some chat. Good morning to everybody in the chat. We're going to hang out. We're going to drink coffee. That's what CTWB means if you see that in the description. Coffee time with Bear. We're just hanging out. This is not a formal brief, if you will. Although if you're on Patreon, you've been getting the formal briefs in written form Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Shout out to the Dance Monkeys, the Intel team that puts those together, regardless of where I am in the world, but regardless of what I have going on. Super duper appreciate them. Yummy. So, in no particular order, in fact, we're going to start over here at just Google News, which already reminds me, there's some conjecture that President Trump is going to be making a statement today regarding woke AI. These robots, they have an agenda. They're very liberal. They're programming the robots to poop on top of the cats in the litter box, and I won't have it. So, every artificial intelligence tool that has been developed by people thus far that we know of, and has been developed off of inputs or reference materials from people. Whether that's the internet, which dead internet theory states the internet's 60 to 70% bots. So that's interesting. Whether it's the internet or it's textbooks and reference material, all of which, or most of which, considering the internet, the volume has been produced by people. And so, for example, ChatGPT is pretty liberal. Google's Gemini is neutral. Brian Dean Wright at the Wright Report was talking about this morning on his podcast, so let's give credit where credit is due. So Brian was talking about Gemini's Google is like neutral, and then some of the other ones kind of trend to the right. Point being that we're supposed to be getting, allegedly, Trump is issuing a statement today about not using federal funds to fund woke AI. Okay, who determines what woke is? Why are we using federal funds to fund AI? Oh, because it's the next weapon. Okay, all right, whatever. Again, cursory overview today. I'm not entirely sure about how I feel about any of that, but I find it interesting. Which brings me to Google, which Google has their own news page where they curate, see, it says your briefing, Tuesday, 22 July, right here at the top. We have a heat advisory here in Spiro. Can you imagine that? I know. It's Oklahoma in the summer. So Google will curate your little news brief for you from all these wonderful open sources that are deeply reliable, from Fox News, New York Times, NPR, which NPR, I believe, has now been defunded by the federal government anyway. CNN, The Washington Post, NBC News, The Guardian, and AP News. So these are all of our... and HuffPost is down here as well as Bloomberg, LA Times, the National Archives, and the BBC. So these are all very reliable sources, very reliable. But what I saw here on Google News that I found interesting, amidst all the drivel, is this piece from The Guardian here. Thanks for the pop-up, dude. 11-minute race for food, how aid points in Gaza became death traps, a visual story. Hundreds of people have died while seeking food since delivery was taken over by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in May. Okay, So let's back up. Hundreds of people have died. And why am I talking about this? There's a preparedness lesson in here that I'm pulling out for us, okay? Hundreds of people have died while seeking food since delivery was taken over by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation. Now, previously, UN or WRF, relief workers, whatever it was, I forget the acronym, everything has to be acronymized in today's day and age. If you're the government, the DOD, or an NGO, everything gets an acronym. Okay. I think it, woof, bark, bark. I don't know. I don't remember. But anyway, the previous organization, NGO, run through the UN that was delivering this food, was only grifting billions and tens of billions of dollars. So the Gaza Humanitarian, and was deeply, deeply penetrated by Hamas. Now, I'm not issuing, I don't intend to issue any broad statements about Israel versus Palestine in this bit of conversation. If you've been at the channel for any length of time, you understand where I stand on that. I just want to look at the logistics of this. Okay, so hundreds of people have died since food delivery was taken over by Gaza Humanitarian Foundation in May. Let's not mention the tens of thousands of people who have died previously under the previous NGO's administration of this scope of work. So we can start with, there's a little bit of a hit piece here anyway. Why? Because the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is more or less tied to Trump. It's at Trump's insistence, maybe, persistence, that this came about. If you've ever been to class with Refuge Medical and you've taken the morning of day one, we open the lecture and practical application portion with a video of a man who is shot. And I don't want to ruin it for anybody who's not been to class yet, but suffice it to say, this guy was being compelled via force to do a thing that he didn't want to do. He got shot. And he didn't live. And we use that video to illustrate what critical bleeding looks like. But I also make the point in there, if you've ever heard me say, don't get on the bus, in fact, don't even go to where the bus is, this is why. From a preparedness standpoint, hundreds of people have died while seeking food. Now, we could make the argument, now, I get it. You know, the Gaza Strip and that entire area is basically an open-air prison, and the Palestinians, and yep, all that. Step one, don't be where the problem is, man. Just don't be there. Well, the Israelis won't allow them to leave. Actually, up until fairly recently, you could all the way leave through the southern end of Gaza into Egypt, into the Sinai Peninsula, and it was only at the most recent escalation in tensions that got shut down. Well, they don't have enough money to leave. Maybe not. Now, the Hamas and their administration of what was happening in there, for example, you know, humanitarian works like putting in sewer and water in that small region of the world. The pipes instead were used to make crude elementary artillery pieces rather than flowing water and sewage for your people. So, but you can leave. Where there's a will, there's a way. People escape from prison all the time. Don't be where the problem is. And yes, it is a humanitarian crisis. If you find yourself in the midst of a humanitarian crisis, or more importantly, on the verge of a humanitarian crisis, maybe don't be there. Like, maybe just don't be there. Go somewhere else. Because this is a game of resources, and preparedness is a game of resources. Adam Harris says, team super extra chonky replay crew checking in. What's up, man? My wife got me this Azure Markets crunchy peanut butter, salted, right here. I also want to give a special shout out to Harps, which is a grocery store in our area. They make fresh ground peanut butter that is absurdly good. If you're a peanut butter snob and you've never had any fresh ground, I would recommend, obviously, super chunky. And what I mean by fresh ground is get you a container of salted peanuts and shake it one time, and that's now it's the appropriate level of chunky peanut butterness. That's all you got to do. Continuing. So this is a game of resources. They are in an area with an extremely high population density where resources are consumed but not produced, and as a result, hundreds of people have died while seeking food delivery since May, to say nothing of the thousands, tens of thousands previously that have died while seeking food delivery. And in the process of that food aid being distributed, there's massive amounts of grift. And so we can use this as a teaching point, a learning point for us. Number one, don't be where the problem is. Number two, if you are where the problem is, how do you get out of there? Number three, understand that might makes right. Just because, let's say there's 1 million pounds of food coming in on Tuesday, doesn't mean 1 million pounds of food is going to be distributed, because food is power, food is resources. You can control, and people do control, populations of people, especially dissidents, with food. Holodomor, the Soviet famines that were perpetrated is probably the best word for that. Post-World War II, it's a big deal. Food is power, which means for us, we want to be net producers of calories, not just net consumers. Sorry, I got distracted. Watch me ADD out on camera. I have to write my name back on my water bottle because it has gone away over the last week. Got it. We're back, just like that. Handled. So I thought it was an interesting teaching point. Without any further commentary on the geopolitical situation in Middle Eastern New Jersey, and without issuing any value judgments on one side or the other, just from a logistics standpoint, you don't want to freaking be there, and you don't want to get in somebody else's breadline. Long Road Farms, thanks for the $5. Thanks for the super chat. I appreciate you. Shall we move on? Oh, why, yes, we shall. Let's see. Deputy Attorney General seeking meeting with Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche announced Tuesday that he's seeking a meeting with Jeffrey Epstein's associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The big picture, and this is from Axios, so their political bias is readily on display here. The MAGA base's rage over the Trump administration's recent handling of the case, which Hill Democrats have gladly seized on, sparked a headache for the administration, with Attorney General Pam Bondi emerging as a key target of their discontent. Rightly so. The president, who amid mounting scrutiny has railed against what he is now calling a hoax, last week directed Bondi to ask a court to release all relevant grand jury testimony in the disgraced financier's case. Now, part of what Trump campaigned on, and I've seen several people making hay out of this. I first became aware of it from the Patrick Bet-David podcast, which is painful to listen to because there's two other guys on that show, one of which is named Adam, who just scream at each other for an hour or two. It's like listening to children having a temper tantrum. Patrick, if you're listening, not that I think that you are, you should clean that up immediately, because while the audio quality is stellar, the content quality is abysmal. I don't want to listen to two people in your employ have temper tantrums on the daily. It does nobody any service whatsoever. It's terrible. But Patrick was talking about the 20 campaign promises that Trump has made to his base. Let's pull that up. I don't have a Jamie. I'm not Joe Rogan, and Dudley is resting because he's been on the road with me here recently, and he also has duties and responsibilities with grindstoneministries.com. Trump 20 campaign promises. Let's see here. Platform. Okay. So this is what Patrick Bet-David brought up. 1, seal the border and stop the migrant invasion. Yeah, yep. So per the official numbers, that has happened. 2, carry out the largest deportation operation in American history. It's in process. 3, end inflation and make America affordable again. One could argue either that has not happened or it's in process. Now we're supposed to get some kind of ruling today or commentary today at a minimum about, what is it? They're calling the Genius Act in crypto and stable coins. I don't know. I'm honestly not learned enough to make any comments on that. I bought some XRP because a brother told me to. I don't even know what the hell I bought. I have dabbled with Bitcoin and Ethereum previously, and I don't really like it. I much prefer silver and gold because I can physically touch silver and gold, both of which are on a rally as well. If we were still in the gold standard pre certain individual getting shot in the head, Dealey Plaza, and on down from there, I think I was looking at some data from the 1960s. Average weekly earnings, if we were still in the gold standard today, would be about average, for the average American, about $6,000 a week. Sarah Kelly, super chat, thanks for the $5, sister. Did Caleb House meet their funding goal? I don't know. I'm waiting on the final tally for that. I know that we were, as of the morning of the 20th, 33K short of our goal. And so I haven't gotten updated numbers since then. But when I do have those numbers, I'll provide them to you. And that fundraising is specifically for Care House 2, to be able to fund Care House 2 at Caleb House Facility 1. So end inflation. In the 1960s, your average weekly take-home pay, based upon today's gold prices, would have been about $6,000 a week. Average. I think most of us could get on board with that. However, inflation has not been ended. 4, make America the dominant energy producer in the world by far! Exclamation point. Drill, baby, drill. We haven't seen a whole lot of drill, baby, drilling. We've heard a lot about precious metals and rare earth minerals and rare earth magnets and neodymium and palladium and blah, blah, blah. All of which is being touted from a defense standpoint. In fact, the United States government is now the largest partner in a new project here domestically to produce rare earth magnets so that we no longer have to procure 100% of those things from China. So that's interesting. I mean, isn't that the merging of production and state? But I digress. Stop outsourcing and turning the United States into a manufacturing superpower. Now, this is line 5. I'm very on board with that. Very on board with that. However, we need to fix people's incomes, meaning we need to fix the value of the US dollar, in my opinion, in order for that to be viable. Because as somebody who owns a company that manufactures things here in the United States of America, I've done my research on this. In fact, we talked about this 2 Thursdays ago in the Refuge Classroom. 90, we'll just call it 90%. I don't remember the exact numbers, but 90% of people polled said that they would prefer to buy things manufactured in America. However, 82%, as far as their pricing tolerance, 82% of people said that they would only consider American products if they fell within 10% of Chinese manufactured products. And that's just not doable for most things. That's like saying it costs $10 made in China, it costs $11 made in America, it's only $1 more. Or it's $100 made in China, it's $110 made in America, it's only 10% more. Yep, I'll buy the American thing. The challenge there is cost of living in America is incredibly high as compared to China. And we actually pay people money here. We don't have slave labor where we give people a bowl of rice every day and call it an income, which sounds like hyperbole, but it's actually true in China. Most, I don't know if it's most, but a majority of Chinese products are produced with slave labor. That's why they're so cheap, and they're manufactured at scale because the Chinese government owns the means of production because they're communists. So it's very difficult to match that in the United States of America without an influx of capital into our manufacturing centers, our means of manufacturing here. Also, energy costs are significantly high in the United States of America. Labor costs are significantly high. And I like high labor costs because I think you should pay somebody a living wage, but the dollar should be worth more too. If we were restored to that 1960s standard of having our currency backed by gold, the average American worker, we're talking about you work at Walmart or Dollar General or McDonald's, and your average take home is $6K a week, not a month, a week. That'd be okay. That'd be okay. So, continuing. Large tax cuts for workers and no tax on tips. That has gone through. Defend our Constitution, Bill of Rights, and other fundamental freedoms, including freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. Maybe. Freedom of speech. I'm pretty sure we've gotten some executive orders where we're not allowed to criticize certain ethno-religious peoples. So that's not freedom of speech. Freedom of religion. Again, we're not allowed to criticize certain ethno-religious peoples. The right to keep and bear arms. There's a lot of interesting things that's been happening there, and people will tout the removal of the $200 fee for a tax stamp on SBRs, short-barreled shotguns, suppressors, and any other weapons. There should be no registry in the first place. In fact, the registry is illegal. Now, per my understanding, which is minimal, Mike over at Guns and Gear, Mr. Guns and Gear, Mike had a video out talking about this, that the ATF's budget will not fund the registry in the upcoming fiscal year, so that's good, but there shouldn't be a registry in the first place. And so I think there's lots of room for improvement on point 7, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, and the right to keep and bear arms. 8, prevent World War III, restore peace in Europe and the Middle East, and build a great Iron Dome missile defense shield over our entire country, all made in America. Now, they were working on the Iron Dome here. The Golden Dome. This dome is so golden. But as far as preventing World War III, we've had no meaningful developments in the Russia-Ukraine conflict. The ceasefire between Israel and Hamas has been violated again because as a certain country in the Middle East has violated no less than 973 ceasefires since 1948. Interesting. It's data. It's just data, open source data. Okay. For whatever reason, maybe they were justified 973 times, but that's a really interesting data point. We still are getting lots of ongoing chatter as, Taiwan, China, Taiwan, blah, blah, blah. And the weaponization of government against the American people. Now, I will say, I feel like this is less than it was during the Biden administration, certainly the Obama administration, perhaps even the Trump administration. But I got one question. Is the Patriot Act still in play? If the Patriot Act is still in play, I don't think we get to check off item 9 here. Stop the migrant crime epidemic. I guess they're no longer eating dogs, eating cats. That was a great song. That was a banger when that came out, by the way. Demolish foreign drug cartels. Now, I was talking with somebody about this at Kentucky Sustainable Living's event this past weekend about the designation of cartels as terror cells. Now, part of that has been done in order to be able to use Department of Defense personnel, assets, material, funding, logistics at the border, which I agree with. But I agree with it because there's been reporting, open source and otherwise, for at least a decade that I can remember, that these cartels are not just operating in the model of Hamas, but they're operating with Hamas. And also, now this is going to fascinate some of y'all, with low-vis Russian special forces. Now, why would they do that? Because Hamas is one of several proxies from Iran. And Iran and Russia are homies. And it's in Russia's best interest to destabilize the United States of America at home, because every dollar and every bullet we have to dispense at home is a dollar and bullet we can't dispense elsewhere. Okay, it's called asymmetric warfare. And so the cartels in Mexico are becoming more and more well-trained, more and more logistically capable. They have tunnels underneath the southern border that don't kind of look like Hamas tunnels. They are one-to-one exact replicas of Hamas tunnels. In other words, the cartels have been colluding with known terrorist organizations for a long time. So, crush gang violence, I don't know, and lock up violent offenders. Maybe, yeah. I mean, we've got Alligator Alcatraz. Allegedly, Alcatraz Actual is coming back online. So, I'd say, yeah, C+ on that. Rebuild our cities, including Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. I think Washington, D.C., man, rebuild it. Myself, personally, I say defund it. All of it. All of it. It's, you know, sacred geometry and Freemasons and blah, blah, blah. Let's just defund all of it. I don't know. Rebuilding our cities in D.C., all that takes money. It goes back to the value of the U.S. dollar. We can argue about the appropriation of funds, which, by the way, we got a giant omnibus bill, which we were told that we weren't going to get anymore. We're going to get single-issue bills. No, we got one big, beautiful bill. It's very beautiful, just like Melania. It's tremendous. Everyone tells me. So we get this one big, beautiful bill, giant omnibus spending bill. It's the opposite of what we were told we were going to be getting. And we can argue about how the money should be spent, but if the money is worth more than it is right now, we can spend less of it for more impact. So this, again, for me, goes back to fixing the money. Strengthen and modernize our military, making it without question the strongest and most powerful in the world. Now, I will say here, point 12, Trump has done a much better job than the Biden regime, specifically Pete Hegseth. I like seeing Pete out there PTing with the troops. I like his leadership style. He's a little rough around the edges. He says things occasionally that the political establishment doesn't really appreciate, and I'm good with it, because when we're talking about war fighters, I'd like them to be capable of war. We have other mechanisms for diplomacy. We have other ways to speak softly. We also need a big stick. Okay, and so the big stick should be capable of doing big stick stuff, in my humble opinion. Point 13, keep the US dollar as the world's reserve currency. Maybe, I mean, we're still there. But hell, I'm not entirely convinced. I want it as my currency, and I'm a citizen of the United States of America. 14, fight for and protect Social Security and Medicare with no cuts, including no changes to the retirement age. Yeah, so that's an A asterisk. The people who got kicked off of Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, but arguably shouldn't have been on there in the first place. 15, cancel the electric vehicle mandate and cut costly and burdensome regulations. Yeah, that's a campaign promise to his buddy Elon, and they're not so friendly anymore. So, yes, that happened. 16, cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, radical gender ideology, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, and political content on our children. That's been happening, as has point 17, keep men out of women's sports. That's been happening as well. 18, deport pro-Hamas radicals and make our college campuses safe and patriotic again. Now that's allegedly why we've gotten the executive orders on anti-Semitism. Maybe. We'll see. What I don't like is that broad sweeping statements like that can be applied in situations where they were not originally intended to be applied. 19, secure our elections, including same-day voting, voter identification, paper ballots, and proof of citizenship. No real traction on that I'm aware of. And 20, unite our country by bringing it to new and record levels of success. I would say we're not there yet on that as far as being united is concerned. I don't think that the political divide has softened any, has improved any, and it's my perception, I could be wrong on this, but it's my perception that what's referred to in the media as the MAGA coalition is not nearly as strong as it used to be because of things like this. We read that. We read that. We read that. Let's go over here. From RT Russia Today, Trump sues Rupert Murdoch. Oh, by the way, I wanted to let you guys, everybody in the chat know, all 555 of you currently, You look lovely today. You just look lovely today. And I realize that may be an HR violation, but I'm letting you know. You look lovely today. I'm actually messing with... No, I told you, it's only gay if you look them in the eye while you're saying it. See what? Yo, Terry.
Yeah.
You look lovely today, brother. Terry's got... Oh no, don't look at me. Don't look at me while I say it. Don't... I said you look lovely today.
I really can't do shit today. I thought it was something else.
Jennifer Lowe, thanks. I just got my Born Primitive Cool Guy pants. Awesome. Awesome. We're going to be doing an event with them later on. I'll tell you guys more about that later. But I digress. So, here from RT, Trump sues Rupert Murdoch. The U.S. president has accused the Wall Street Journal of libel over its reporting of a supposed letter to Jeffrey. U.S. President Donald Trump has filed a libel lawsuit against billionaire Rupert Murdoch and his media empire over an article in a Wall Street Journal that claimed he sent a lewd birthday letter to Jeffrey in 2023. The suit... Wasn't Jeffrey the name of the Toys R Us giraffe?
Yes.
It was? Why do they gotta ruin everything? You know? I don't want to grow up. Because if I did, then I wouldn't be a Toys R Us kid. But here we are, all grown up. Just broken Toys R Us children scattered about the globe, having to deal with this today on a random Tuesday morning. Oh, Ducks, thank you. Y'all are a great looking bunch, I guess. Ducks, you know it. Just wait till this refuge calendar comes out. That's right. We're going to call November Tourniquet Left Leg. Yep. It's going to take some very careful placement in order for it to be workplace appropriate. Hey, all Duck said was I look lovely today, honey. You can't get upset about it. I'm just having a fun time with my wife. Because my wife walked in and said to Lauren, "Oh my gosh, you look lovely today." And Lauren said, "Thanks, I took a shower." And I was like, "Hey, isn't that an HR violation? I can't say that. I can't say to Lauren, 'Lauren, you look lovely today,' because then Monica would have to sit down and open the employee handbook with me." But then what we landed on is, as long as I tell all the guys here that they look lovely today, that's fine, but I can't actually say that to any of the women. But the women can say it to each other, and that's perfectly fine. I think. I don't know. We're in Oklahoma, so we're a very traditional conservative state here.
We're not inbred.
What's that?
We're not inbred.
Well, no, we're not inbred. We don't do that stuff. Anyway, Trump suing Rupert Murdoch. Quote, "I look forward to getting Rupert Murdoch to testify in my lawsuit against him and his pile of garbage newspaper, the WSJ. That will be an outstanding, interesting experience," Trump wrote on Truth Social. The lawsuit stems from a Wall Street Journal article published on Thursday, which claimed that Trump authored a suggestive letter to Jeffrey for his 50th birthday back in 2003. The report cited an alleged drawing of a nude woman signed Donald, including a leather-bound album compiled by Jeffrey associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Quote, "I told Rupert it was a scam, but he did. He printed it, and now I'm going to sue his ass off," Trump wrote on Thursday night. Sue his ass off. I will say this, I find this more entertaining than Biden constantly falling up flights of stairs. I'm not saying it's any better, but it is at least more entertaining. So, remember that while the release of the Jeffrey files may not have been on Trump's published 20 points platform for re-election, it absolutely was a campaign promise. Which brings us over here to Axios. Axios is far left rag. So just everybody has a bias. Just understand the bias. Okay. Jennifer, it was funny to watch Biden poop himself. I kind of missed that. Yeah, did you see Hunter Biden said the reason that his the debate between his father and Trump early on in the most recent election cycle went so poorly was because he was on a flight, and in order to sleep on the flight, his handlers had given Joe Biden an Ambien. And so he was still under the effects of the Ambien. He's definitely not an 80-year-old one man who, sadly, is suffering from Alzheimer's. Christine,
Yes,
you look lovely today.
thank you.
You're welcome. Red, Hunter's rants on the podcast are funny. He is a crackhead. 100%. Not only that, what was it, the president of what country? South American country, where we're exporting all of our criminals to. I could see it. I'm only coming up with African countries. Anyway, that guy, the president, asked if Hunter is still snorting powdered milk. And I thought that was a really good retort. So Axios, Trump's forever grudge ties Jeffrey files to Russian hoax. Now here's what's interesting. Maybe the meat of the stories today. Trump campaigned on, at least verbally, promising the release of the Jeffrey files. Then AG Pam Bondi, who was AG of Florida and presided over the federal case against Jeffrey, said, I have the files on my desk, which was probably hyperbole. She probably meant they're in my office and I'm aware of them. Okay? Words matter, especially the higher you climb the hierarchy of social power, the more your words matter. But she probably meant, I'm aware of them, I have them in my office, not they're literally sitting on my desk. But she said she had them. And then as this has progressed, this has turned into Trump basically ranting and throwing temper tantrums, saying only an idiot would want to see the Epstein files. It's democratic make-believe that Obama came up with. Obama, Hillary, Comey, etc., etc. Just drop it. Just let it go. Now, is it possible? Hear me out on this. I am not saying I believe any of this. I'm asking, is it possible? Is it possible? Why did I just pop the lid off of that? Because Scotch tape. Sorry, ADDing over here. This lidocaine, it's fine. Just pop the lid off. I'm gonna tape it back on. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. It's literally sitting on my desk. It's fine. Monica's here. Monica, we need to have an HR conversation.
What?
By the way,
Not us.
you look lovely today. Is it possible that when Trump was campaigning, the Epstein files were more or less intact, but because of the air quote deep state, the Epstein files, air quote, that we now have been either swapped from the originals to a new set of files as a fail-safe to implicate the Orange Man, or they've been altered to include and implicate the Orange Man by the air quote deep state, which is where Trump is getting the talking point of the Epstein files now are Obama make-believe. They are Obama, Hillary, Comey. Kind of gets to the point of we're never going to know the truth, man. Just like the JFK files. Well, they released the JFK files. Yes, they redacted them. They took out one phrase from the JFK files. Very interesting phrase. It was, quote, Middle Eastern New Jersey, end quote. Super interesting. Just like the 9/11 files that we haven't gotten yet, because they're probably going to have to redact a very similar phrase out of those. And then they just released 240,000 pages on Martin Luther King yesterday. And at the same time, you've got Tulsi Gabbard, ODNI, Office of the Director of National Intelligence, saying that, yeah, she has definitive proof that that Obama interfered, that, you know, Russia gave blah, 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 that Obama's guilty of treason. Now, I think Obama should be, let's not be hyperbolic, let me be accurate with my words. I think Obama should be swinging from a rope in front of the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. for myriad reasons, all of which are treasonous. And before Google, who owns YouTube, shuts me down again and gives me my third channel strike, that is United States code for how we deal with traitors. And so I believe Obama to be a traitor, and he has been a traitor for a long time. CNN wrote articles about how he was a Kenyan-born man. CNN did, when he was running for office in Illinois before he was president of the United States of America. President asterisk, which goes back to Trump's talking points regarding having same-day voting, paper ballots, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, here's what I would be doing. 'Twas I, Trump. Obama could not have legally ever occupied the office of the President of the United States of America. So I would be legally unraveling anything that Obama ever signed, ever, while in the White House. Additionally, Biden was found unfit to stand trial due to his mental capacity. So I would be legally unraveling everything during the Biden administration that came after that judge's verdict that Biden is unfit to stand trial due to his mental capacity. I'd be undoing all of that. Now, while you're undoing all of that, there be snitches everywhere, and the establishment, assuming that Trump had the stomach to do this, if Trump is who he says he is, and not who it oftentimes looks like he actually is, if he had the stomach to do this, what I would be doing is dismantling everything that Barack Hussein Obama ever stroked a pen across. And everything that Biden or the auto pen or Biden staffers or anybody at the direction of Biden ever stroked a pen across after that verdict of unfit to stand trial. Okay, cool. That's going to dismantle a large portion of the air quote deep state. However, there's an interesting pattern in the United States of America. When you try to undo the works of the deep state, they shoot you. Now that brings us to Butler, Pennsylvania. And then the key question, first of all, still don't know anything. Is it Thomas Crooks was his name? We still don't know anything about Thomas Crooks. The six Secret Service personnel that were found to be responsible for the lapse in security in Butler were put on administrative leave, I believe for a period of 2 weeks. They weren't fired, they haven't stood in front of a jury, there's been no charges, they just administrative leave, 2 weeks. So how deep does the conspiracy go? Super deep than any of us could possibly fathom, because none of us has all the information. In fact, the information that we do have is only the information they've allowed us to have. And so if this thing is as big and as dirty as everybody says it is, me included, it would make sense that we don't understand the depths of it. You know, we're all in a dark room holding on to a piece of an elephant trying to describe what we're experiencing. So one person's got the foot, one person's got the tail, one person's got a trunk, one person's got an ear, one person's got their hand on the belly, and we're all describing different symptoms of the same disease, if you will, without actually understanding the entirety of the situation. So, In any event, Trump has been backpedaling over his comments about Jeffrey and the releasing of the Jeffrey files, up to and including the point of insulting his base over wanting them released. I think they should be released. However, I also think whatever is released will never be the actual files, which actually lends some credence to the idea that in November 2024, the files that Trump was talking about releasing are not the files that we have now in July 2025. So, a little bait and switch, if you will. All of which, for Trump's political opponents, works in their favor because now he's attacking his own base and he's not keeping his campaign promises, which is undermining and eroding the trust that his base has in him, which is going to limit his political horsepower to accomplish his agenda in the first place, all of which is good for the deep state. Do you asymmetric warfare, bro? So, in other news, India and China are deepening their relationship. Just cursory overview here. They went and did political things. They shook hands. From RT, the world's most explosive rivalry just turned strategic. Maybe. That's a couple billion people and trillions of dollars in revenue that if they start working together or working together more deeply. They've had what would you call it, diplomatic relations for the last 75 years. But if they were to actually start to coordinate together, I'll tell you, probably 80% of the things that you touch in your life every day were manufactured either in India or in China. It's kind of a big deal. So, yeah, we'll keep our eye on this. I don't know if we're going to have any significant developments out of this in any time in the near future. But this is a fun picture. Who do we have here? Prime Minister Modi, Xi, and Vladimir Putin. Look how friendly they look. They're so happy. They're so happy. Look at them. They're super happy. These three working together, love them, hate them, good guys, bad guys, whatever. These three working together is going to probably exacerbate American existence for a while, if they do. If it's anything more than let's hold hands for a picture. Now, Modi's stoked. Look at his body language. Look at his eyes. Look at look at the grip that he's got on Xi and on Putin. Putin's fingers are turning red. Xi's fingers are turning red. Modi's like, heck yeah, I made it to the big time. I've got this weird Tibetan monk coat on. Don't have to wear a tie. But we've all got pockets. Everybody has pockets. Putin's like, this face right here, I'm just here. Look at Xi. Look at his body language. He's also like, I'm just here. Take the damn picture. Modi, however, everything about him is saying, hell yeah, this is great. Look at me. I'm not just some guy in a weird coat anymore. I've got friends. I'm now friends with Putin and with Xi. And so just from this picture, one could probably surmise, number one, Xi needs to get better at tying his tie. We're a little off to the right over here. That's a problem. I wouldn't want my picture taken like that. Putin, sharp as always. Look at their body language. Modi's stoked. He's gripping the crap out of Putin and Xi's hands. He's way more bought in than they are. So the likelihood, and that's just real brief analysis of the pic, but the likelihood that this is some gigantic unilateral agreement that's going to allow Russia and India and China to take over the Eastern Hemisphere as one giant beast system that the United States is going to have to fight against. No. Xi and Putin will play Modi for everything that he's worth because he's way more excited about it than they are. That's not a great place to be in when you're negotiating, especially on behalf of a billion people. My take. Could be wrong, but that's what I got on that. Fast forwarding, 50 minutes in, 2 adults with a happy toddler. Texas sheep lady. That's exactly That's exactly correct. You nailed it. Yummy. Martin Luther King assassination files released. Can we say assassination on the internet? Well, we just did, so whatever. Now do the Epstein files, the daughter of the civil rights icon Bernice King has said. Trump administration released thousands of government files related to the assassination of civil rights icon Martin Luther King Jr. Around 240,000 pages were posted on Monday. You'll hear a lot about King and how he wasn't the darling that the civil rights movement made him to be. He had multiple affairs, drugs and alcohol, the whole night. He was a man. And honestly, I kind of like the fact, now I'm not excusing any of his unbiblical behavior, but I like the fact that he wasn't perfect, because there was only one man ever was perfect. But King was a notorious womanizer. He's had, documented outbursts of anger. He was not a perfect man. But he also got swept up in this movement that frankly, promoted him to the forefront of it. It's like, you're the guy now. And I could see that being a very challenging position to be in. And for all his troubles, he was killed probably by his own government. Likely by his own government. The 240,000 pages, that number in of itself, that's a big number. We got 250,000 pages of information on this. That's a big number. That's not a small number of pages. That's 4,000 average novels of information on Martin Luther King relating to King and his assassination. National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard said the files included FBI memos, case leads, notes on James Earl Ray, the confessed killer, notes on Ray's former cellmate, and overseas intelligence from the manhunt after Ray fled to the UK. Early reviews revealed no new details on FBI surveillance of King or possible links to Ray. Some researchers and King's family believe the killing was part of a wider conspiracy and that Ray may have been framed. You think so? King's children, Bernice King and Martin Luther King III, were given early access to the records and opposed their release, fearing they might contain material that could damage their father's legacy. Now, Bernice King, right here, here's her post, picture of her dad, and says, now do the Epstein files. Critics have slammed the administration's handling of the case. The Justice Department released the Epstein Files Phase 1 in February, but the heavily redacted documents revealed little new information. And so we've got a pattern of behavior here. We're gonna release these files. There's no new information in them. Just like right here, early reviews revealed no new details on FBI surveillance of King or possible links to Ray. So they've been sanitized, and they've had King was assassinated in 1968, so they've had, 57 years? They've had 57 years to clean these files up. Probably why we haven't got the air quote Epstein files yet, because they haven't had enough time to clean them up. We got the JFK files, they're all cleaned up. And just because they say, here's everything we've got, doesn't mean it's everything that they've got. So they say this is the complete list. And it's funny how they say things like this, because in their head, let's say they were with a polygrapher, right? They're getting a polygraph, and the polygrapher asks the question, are these the complete files? They could say yes, and not move the needle. Because in their mind, what they're saying is, yes, these are the complete files, ... for open dissemination. These are the complete files. They're the complete files for you and me. They're not the complete files for them, okay? And how do we know the files in any of these drops, whether it's the Martin Luther King files or the JFK files or the Epstein files, if those ever actually come to light? We have no way of telling. None of it's believable. None of it There's no way to independently verify, is my point. It's all single source information. There's no way to verify it. We don't know. And so basically it's the government patronizing its constituency, saying, you said you wanted the MLK files, here's MLK files. By the way, 240,000 pages. Good luck. Have fun plowing through it. And somebody will dedicate their entire life to doing that, write a book about it at some point, and it'll still be incomplete because the initial data set was limited, wrong, manufactured. In other words, we don't know. We don't know. Now, when I say I want the Epstein files, what I want to know is who in the upper echelons of the world government was knowingly, actively engaging in pedophilia, allowing themselves to be leveraged by other world governments and banks and groups of people. Number one, exploiting children, and number two, invalidating the representation of the constituency of those politicians. That's what I want to know. I don't want 250,000 pages of flight logs and bank records and all that. I just want names. I want to know whose heads go on spikes. That's what I want to know. That's it. And I betcha we never get it. And if we do, it's a manufactured list used to take out political opposition to the current or next administration. I would put, if I was making stuff up, I'd put all of my enemies' names on that list and go, look at all these scumbags, heads on spikes, right? And in one fell swoop, you'd have 80% of the country going, yes, heads on spikes. Let's do it. Wipe out all of your opposition. Like if I was a bad guy, but also the president, I'd take every name in the deep state, every one of them, known opposition, and I'd add them to that list and go, new campaign, 2025, Q3 2025, heads on spikes. And the whole world would go, yeah, heads on spikes. And you'd wipe out all of your opposition in one fell swoop. While promises made, promises kept. Lastly, Here, we gotta pull a couple other things up. Just for the remainder of the show. Whoa. Crazy. Trump caught off guard. Why with the pop-up, CNN? Trump caught off guard by Israel's actions in Gaza and Syria last week as skepticism of Netanyahu grows inside the White House. Does it? Does skepticism of Netanyahu grow inside the White House, or is that just a talking point that people want us to believe to take us off the scent of the fact that they're just as hunky-dory as they've ever been, because there's a couple of things that may or may not have happened, none of which are going to undermine the overwhelming commitment of the United States to Middle Eastern New Jersey, allowing Middle Eastern New Jersey to basically do whatever they want to do, covering up the fact that Netanyahu is wildly unpopular amongst his constituency over there in Middle Eastern New Jersey. And every time it seems like he's going to be recalled or lose power, some crazy stuff like October 7th, 2023 happens, and then now he's a wartime leader again. And the whole world rallies around Netanyahu while sending billions and hundreds of billions of dollars in money and weaponry and technology and arms and armaments over to that little tiny country, most of which never ends up to its intended place of distribution in the first place. A lot like food aid to Palestine, interestingly, and the heat comes off of Mr. Bibi, and he's allowed to continue to do all the stuff that he was doing in the first place anyway, that made him wildly unpopular with his constituency. And then the news media just covers for him. Yeah, Operation Mockingbird Bear, you're right. The CIA and the Wall Street Journal, they had 467 different people on their payroll, news reporters and all that. That's why I use social media and listen to podcasts. You don't think, who invented the internet? DARPA. DARPA made the internet. You may remember there was a thing called LAN back in the day. Some of you will remember this. Local area network, okay? And LAN was a bunch of cables. Like today we're familiar with like Cat 5 and Cat 5e. I remember when Cat 5 came out, I think. At least I remember when we started implementing it. My old man, story time with Bear. My old man had a company. He started doing power construction and telecom when I was knee-high to a grasshopper when I was a little kid. And he got really good at what he did. And he passed a bunch of background checks and polygraphs and roto-rooters and the whole nine. And so my old man was allowed onto sensitive sites. For example, we used to have this thing called Strategic Air Command, which is, oh no, the Soviets are going to try and nuke us, we'll nuke them first. You may be familiar with Strategic Air Command. One of the bases that they flew out of was Offutt Air Force Base. My dad wired Offutt Air Force Base by himself. White Sands Missile Range. Where's White Sands at? And you know, let's just Google that. Google.com. Where is White Sands Missile Range located? Where's that? South central New Mexico, approximately 50 miles north of the U.S.-Mexico border. What does that look like on maps? I wonder if we pull up Google Maps. There's White Sands Missile Range, and we zoom out from White Sands Missile Range, and we keep zooming. If we're going to find areas of the map that are blacked out because they're in New Mexico, where places do things that don't happen. Yeah. White Sands Missile Range. So, boom. Lots of interesting things have happened at White Sands. Let's not get lost during story time. Here's my point. My old man did telecom, and then early on, somebody came to him. I remember they showed up at the house and they're like, "Hey Sam," my dad's name was Sam. We want to buy some of these personal computers. Have you heard of these personal computers? It's like, yeah, I've heard about them. They're like, well, we want to buy 5,000 of them. My dad's like, okay, and like, we want to buy 5,000 of them from you. And he's like, I don't know anything about personal computers. They're like, yeah, but we trust you. We don't care if you buy somebody else's equipment and put your label on it. We want to buy them from you because we trust you. So my dad was like, okay. Now my dad was a high school dropout, ran away from home at 15, worked real hard. He was smart, very smart guy. Not a whole lot of traditional schooling, Kansas farm boy. And now he's got the United States government and Department of Defense saying, yo, we want to buy 5,000 computers from you. And my dad, being my dad, didn't feel right buying somebody else's equipment, popping their label off of it and putting his label on it. Maybe that's why Refuge makes our own stuff. Maybe I just grew up with it. Yeah, you know what? Wow. If only Dr. Trevor was here to help me unpack all of this. Maybe that's why I just can't stomach the idea of selling somebody else's stuff. I got to make my own. My dad did the same thing. He bought 5,000 cases and power supplies and motherboards and chips and CPUs, central processing units, and video cards and RAM, random access memory, and blah blah blah. And we converted the downstairs of our house into a production facility. I remember he had drafting tables because he did a lot of engineering for telecom as a high school dropout. But he had real world experience, so he knew how the stuff was supposed to work, taught himself drafting, taught himself engineering. At one point replaced 72 engineers in one office with himself in the Bell system, Bell Atlantic, because he actually knew the stuff from the field. So we took the drafting tables, and instead of them being angled, we laid them flat, covered them with carpet, because no static electricity. Static electricity, very bad for personal computers. And then we started building personal computers. And then if you hook one to the other with an Ethernet cable, you have a LAN, a local area network. And then people started figuring out with these things called modems. I remember the sound of a 2400 baud modem. you could connect to these things called message boards, right? And then I remember when 56K, 56.6K if we're going to be exact, when 56K came out, people were talking about so much speed, so much bandwidth, nobody will ever need this much speed, it's too fast. Remember that? Welcome to AOL. All of that. Who came up with all of that? DARPA. So you don't think that elements inside the government that used to control the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson and Walter Cronkite and all these other outlets don't now have their fingers into podcast and Meta, Instagram and Facebook and Google, aka YouTube, and connect. I mean, AT&T owns 80% of all of the fiber optic trunk cables in the United States of America, and a simple search on the internet, if you just search AT&T NSA, oh, what a rabbit hole. They have no official agreement, but they are co-located in hundreds of locations around the world where the NSA and AT&T inhabit the same space. That's how embedded they are with one another. All that to say, consider the source, right? So just because CNN has a headline that says, Trump caught off guard by Israel's actions in Gaza and Syria last week as skepticism of Netanyahu grows inside the White House. Is that true? Or is that what they want us to believe? And the answer is very likely the latter. To which people like Glenn Beck, bless his little heart, will be like, the journalists are the fourth branch of the United States government. Homie, they have not been for a long time. A long time. The media has not been the fourth branch of the United States. They are now. They're just no longer independent. They're just bought and paid for by the government. They get all their talking points from the government. And then you look at how news is aggregated. Associated Press, Reuters, etc. They're the ones that come up with all the stories. And then, CNN, Fox News, etc. They pick those up off of The Wire from the AP and report it as if it's their own news. Very rarely do people generate information anymore. Very, very rarely. Anyway, the whole point of this article is that Trump's a little upset, and thanks for the ad of some, I don't even know what this is. It's like some hooker or something on CNN. Makes sense, a hooker on CNN. In any event, the talking point here is that Trump is a little upset with Bibi because of the violation of the ceasefire, and during that violation of the ceasefire, the single Catholic church in Gaza was bombed. Oops. Sure, it's just coincidence. That one was bombed. Trump was similarly surprised by his Israel airstrikes targeting government buildings in the Syrian capital Damascus last week at a moment his administration is working to rebuild the war-torn nation. So Bibi's doing whatever he wants to do, which is thumbing his nose at Trump, which is bad for Trump's personal brand because he's Donald Trump. You're fired, says CNN. I said earlier when we opened the show, not a lot of deep analysis on any of the news talking points, but more like lessons here. And so the lesson here is just because it says it on the news, or I don't listen to the news, I listen to insert podcast or influencer here. Yeah, they're all, not all, but many. There are very few independent sources out there. Very, very, very few. Don't you remember during the Biden administration, all these influencers parroting the same talking points at the same time across, just like we've all seen, like during the COVID era, where these news, air quote, news reporters would come on and they would all say the same line. And there's been many bits of media that have been made where they've overlaid 100 people at the same time saying the exact same thing. It's the same thing on socials as well. It's the same thing on podcasts as well. You got Spotify, you got Apple iTunes. There's just a handful of other aggregators of media, and you will toe the line or they will shut you down. That's why this channel has 2 channel strikes already. And with that, we'll transition. Thanks to the patrons, because without the patrons, we wouldn't be able to do any of this. And our Patreon page is not an I love me, you should love me too page. All the exclusive content's over there. More than 5,000 videos and live streams and write-ups over at Patreon that don't see the light of day here on YouTube. It's all additional content. And so it's $10 a month. You're not paying $10 over on Patreon so you can watch me on YouTube. You're paying that $10 a month as part of a value exchange, where my goal has always been to give you significantly more than $10 in value per month. You can just go to patreon.com, search for Bear Independent, you'll find me. There's also a link in the description. So you are the economic engine of the Bear Nation. It costs me about $3,000 to $4,000 a month just to be on YouTube. YouTube revenue is non-existent. I never did it for the revenue, but a couple, 3 years ago, they changed the way they did revenue anyway. And so YouTube went from being something that we at least broke even on to now it costs us money to be on YouTube. And so that cost is offset via Patreon, to say nothing of all the exclusive content over there. So this is something you want to check out. Sign up for a month. If you don't like it, you don't have to come back. That's okay. If you do like it, stick around. If you like it so much that you want to sign up for a year, you get 2 months free when you sign up for the year. All that's over at patreon.com. Patreon, Patreon.com. Search for Bear Independent. You'll find me, or the link is in the description. Now, with refugemedical.com, you may not know this. Many of you do though. I'm the founder and CEO of refugemedical.com. We make stuff made in America. And when I say we make stuff, I mean like let's just go up here. First aid kits. Boom. Let's go to the Bear Fac. Boom. We make this here in America. Guaranteed forever. If you use this to save a life, I will replace the components that you use to save a life at no cost to you. If you break it for any reason, I will replace it at no cost to you. Forever. These are on 4 continents with all branches of the U.S. Armed Forces electively. Exceed military specification. It's just the best first aid kit on planet Earth. And this is not a bag that we bought from somebody else and then stuffed it full of somebody else's components. We make these. And if you've seen this design that's up on the screen anywhere else from any other kit trying to knock off what we do, it's a knockoff trying to knock off what we do. This is priority of care per the March algorithm: massive bleeding, airway, respiratory, circulation, head injury, hypothermia, everything else. And I invented this. I invented this because I could not find a kit from anyone else that had everything I needed and nothing that I don't, organized appropriately to work the March algorithm. Now, maybe you're thinking to yourself, I'm just a truck driver. I'm just a stay-at-home mom. You're a person. And we all have the same basic physiology. All of us have to keep the blood inside of our body, and we have to maintain reliable respirations. If we do that, and we elevate to a higher level of care during the golden hour, the first 60 minutes, we increase survivability of the patient, including ourselves, 97%. And so our job matters less than our basic physiology. And our basic physiology is that. We got to keep blood inside the body and we got to breathe. And then we got to get to somebody that knows more than we do. Simple as that. And so that's what this kit's designed to do. And it works, because 150 lives have been saved to date that we know of with kits that we have produced at refugemedical.com. And those are all verified saves. Like, we do an after action report, we ask for pics, we want to know what happened. Is there a police report, is there a medical report? I've got to confirm that a life was actually saved. There's been many, many, many that have come in where it's like, that sounds like it could have been, but we don't know, so we're not going to count it. Of the ones we've counted, there's 150 lives saved to date and thousands of aid rendered stories. Just yesterday, I think it was, somebody hit the chat and they're like, well, my coworker got into a fight with a bandsaw, had to bust out the first aid kit. Oof. Okay. So, we make all of our stuff here. We guarantee it forever. And if you break it, I'll replace it at no cost. If you want a refill kit we got the stuff is my point. Just individual components, poly-sealed kits. You want a vacuum sealed kit, significantly more affordable, same grade components inside of them. We've got, regardless of what your price point is, we got something for you. And I definitely want to highlight training. We have several classes available. Think of this as Civilian Introduction to Tactical Medicine. Now, as a civilian, now, if you're a law enforcement officer, EMS or fire, we also have classes for you. Shoot us an email, admin@refugemedical.com, and we'll take care of you. About to be on the road again, training a bunch of law enforcement officers in another state. And so for continuing education units, CLEAT certification, CLEAT accreditation, blah, 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 all the stuff on the professional first responder side, law enforcement, EMS, and fire, we do that as well. What's listed on the website is specifically civilian tactical medicine. And as a civilian, you're probably asking yourself, why tactical? Why do I need to know this stuff? So on the DoD side, there's what's called TCCC, Tactical Combat Casualty Care. Lessons learned in blood during the global war on terror. That has filtered into the civilian side with professional medicine, what's called TECC, Tactical Emergency Casualty Care. Why did they keep the T for tactical? And the answer is, on the civilian side, tactical means any place where violence is occurring. And so, this could be workplace violence, which is definitely on the rise. But let me ask you this. Are two vehicles smashing into each other violent? The answer to that is, yeah, they're incredibly violent. Motor vehicle accidents are incredibly violent. And so just reframe how you think of violence. And again, it goes back to, we all have the same basic physiology. Got to keep the blood inside of your body, got to make sure you can respirate. We just taught in Kentucky, and every single person who took that class, about 40 of them, at some point over the weekend came up to me and they were like, class was excellent, thank you. Way more than we thought. We were getting like drinking from a fire hose. We do that intentionally. I want you to leave with as much information as possible, but I also want you to leave with the practical skills. That if all you retain is the ability to pack wounds, apply tourniquets, apply chest seals, manage an airway, elevate, and keep the blood inside the body, make sure they can breathe. If that's what you leave with, that's what you need in the field. If you retain the stages of massage hemorrhagic shock, aka hypovolemic shock, and compensatory, decompensatory, and irreversible, and the difference between an open and closed pneumothorax and tension pneumothorax, if all that sticks, that's great. You paid for it, you should have that information. But you need to know how to do it. And so we're really big, not just on lecture and practical application, but we're really big on scenario-based training and getting reps and sets in class. And that's one of the things that differentiates us from pretty much every other training organization, is I'm not standing at the front of the class trying to impress you by throwing big words at you. I'm making you do stuff that you wouldn't otherwise do so you can develop the automaticity to do it under stress, so that when you need it, you don't have to think about it. We've had several people, several alumni, refuge training alumni, that have come to class and then gone on to save a life or multiple lives, who have written in afterwards and said, you know, I gotta tell you, Barry, the real thing was actually easier than training was. Good. I want it to be that way. I want, if you ever have to do it for real is easier. Because you have the reps and sets, you've been stress inoculated, you understand how you work under stress. We've given you all of that in class, that when it's time to do it for real, you don't freak out, you don't pass out at the sight of blood, you know how to you know how to make the medical interventions that you need to make. So hit the training tab at refugemedical.com. And I do want to point out to you, there are 2 classes here in Indiana. These are through our refuge training partners. So most of our classes are in Oklahoma unless we come to you, unless you're booking a private class. We have 2 classes in Indiana right now. One is this is in Indianapolis. This is refuge training partner. Hey, who's teaching in Indiana?
Alejandro and Nick.
It's Nick and Al. I thought so. Nick and Al, great guys. They've been through our Refuge Train the Trainer program. They've been to class a bunch of times before that. They were just here for the 0 to Hero radio operator class with Evan. Great guys. Okay, so they will be teaching in Indiana, Indianapolis, the Refuge Responder. This is a 1-day level 1 and level 2 event, and then they also have the 2-day Essential Responder, which is lecture, practical application, and lots of scenario-based training, also in Indianapolis. And so that's the 2-day event, 20 hours of training over the course of 2 days. So all of our classes are up there right now. If your agency, your department, your mutual assistance group, your church would like a quote on private classes, shoot us a message at admin@refugemedical.com. We'll take care of you. And if you're considering a kit today, use promo code BEARNATION. That'll get you 10% off of your kit. Okay, moving right along. GrindstoneMinistries.com. Grindstone has a cool new website. We needed an update. We got an update. Shout out to everybody that made the update happen. Grindstone is currently on the floods in central Texas. Travis County is where Grindstone is working out of right now. If you would like to be a part of that, go to grindstoneministries.com and you can donate or you can join. So there's 2 big buttons right up top at Grindstone: volunteer and donate. Or if you'd like to know more about us, you can click the About Us page and learn more about how we got involved in what we're doing here. If you hit deployments, London, Kentucky, tornado, EF4, 350 million in damages, 29 volunteers, 2,632 volunteer areas. LaFleur County, Oklahoma, Pikeville, Kentucky, 10 million in damages. Marshall County, Oklahoma, Ada, Oklahoma, Selmer, Tennessee. We had 2,800 volunteer hours on that. And by the way, Grindstone doesn't bill for hours. We don't bill the homeowner. We don't bill the municipality. We don't bill the state. We don't bill the federal government. We run 100% funded by y'all. That's it. That's our funding mechanism. People that are convicted to donate. That's it. We don't take money from anybody else, which means we're not beholden to anybody else. In Tylertown, Mississippi here, we have pushing 4,000 volunteer hours with about a $700,000 economic impact for that. Beholden to no man. Love it. Allen, Oklahoma, Tampa, Florida, Eastern Tennessee, Hurricane Helene. Damages in the $75 to $79 billion range. We capped out at 103 volunteers at any one time on that site. Volunteer hours, a little over 20,000 hours on Hurricane Helene. Barnesville, Oklahoma, Rolling Fork, Mississippi, Idabel, Mayfield. We've been doing this for a minute. We're pretty good at it. We're not new to disaster relief, and we're not grifting in disaster relief unlike a lot of other organizations. And so you can come see us if you're interested. GrindstoneMinistries.com. And please continue to keep those brothers and sisters in prayer while they're out there being the hands and feet of the Most High. They need it. It's a stressful situation. And then CalebHouse.org. Caleb House is our counter-trafficking ministry. There's lots of people that talk about counter-trafficking. There's very few people that actually do it. While I was in Kentucky, I was honored to speak on behalf of Caleb House. There was a charity auction that was put on by Jason and Shelley at Kentucky Sustainable Living. And we raised, I think, about $15,500. So thank you to everybody who donated. All the organizations, I mean, Tactical Response donated, and Tasmanian Tiger donated, and Evan from Radio Made Easy donated, and just a bunch of people. Matthew carved this amazing staff with the Caleb House logo and Matthew 18 in it, and just beautiful. It just, and everybody else who donated their services or their product, thank you. While I was there, I spoke for about a half an hour on what Caleb House is and where we came from and where we're going, and I believe Dudley's going to pull out that content, and that'll become standalone media as well, which will be shareable, which you can share to all of your people to help more people know about Caleb House. Our specific focus is restoration. We do rescue, but our predominant job is putting broken children and women back together again. And so if that's something that the Spirit is convicting you on and you want to partner with us, you can go to Caleb with a K, calebhouse.org, and you can donate, you can share, you can volunteer. Email for volunteers is volunteers@calebhouse.org. I know, hard to remember. Volunteers@calebhouse.org. And just check it out, man, if the Spirit's moving you. Now, let's put a bow on this thing. I am amazed. I had no idea how much, I know, it's ridiculous. I had no idea how much pastoring I was going to be doing in Kentucky. But it was a lot. It was really cool. I got to, I was asked to lead, we'll call it air quote, church on Sunday morning. And so I did. I don't know how many people were there. I wasn't keeping score, but it was a good, about 2-hour long conversation. And what was interesting to me was it was a really wide spectrum of people who didn't know Messiah at all the way up to whole Bible believers. And it was cool. It was a cool vibe. And then we baptized for probably a total of 3 hours while we were there. And that was also cool because those baptisms ran the gamut from rededication of life to Messiah to repentance to healing to first time confession of faith, new believers. And that was so cool for me because I don't typically get new believers. I'm not really the pastor for new believers. I'm the pastor for people who've gotten some dirt on their soul from living life and need a reintroduction. That tends to be who the Father sends to me. And it was so precious to be, I mean, they were all beautiful baptisms, every one of them. Megan, I believe was her name, sister who was there, came up and told me, she said, I didn't even know you were baptizing, but I could feel something in the Spirit was going on because this whole place is filled with the Spirit right now. I was like, yeah, I agree. But those new believers, new confessions of faith, and these were adults, right? Just precious. It was so cool. It's always so cool. Every one of them is so cool. But it was so cool. In any event, thank you to everyone that was there. Can you guys still hear me? I think I hit the mute button on my microphone. And I don't know if I did or I didn't. Hello. Thanks, Striker Kate. So with that, let's pray. Good morning, Father Yahweh. Father, thank you for the opportunity to be your hands and feet in whatever capacity it might be, whether it's restoring widows and orphans or helping people who have lost all their physical goods in catastrophic environmental calamities, or speaking on your behalf and reading your word and teaching people about you, the Word and the Word made flesh, or introducing or reintroducing people to you. God, I thank you for your Spirit. Thank you for loving us. Thank you for loving us even though we are not perfect, and some days we're not even good. Thank you for relentlessly pursuing us and making a way for us to come home by the blood of Messiah. Thank you for truly loving us. That your love is perfect. That it's not constrained by brokenness like our physical love is. But that your love is perfect. Father, I just want to praise you in that. I don't have a lot of asks today. You know what every one of us is going through today, and so I pray that you minister to that. I pray that we would remember that provision, protection, and blessing is your job, not ours. And that we would give those burdens to you. Only conviction is the job of your Ruach HaKodesh, your Spirit. And we would give those burdens to you. And that the remediation of sin and the model to walk in, that's the job of Messiah. And we give those burdens to you. Father, thank you for our daily bread. Thank you for loving your kiddos, especially the weirdos, because we love you too. Father, y'all, make your face to shine upon your people today. Please give us your peace, your shalom. In Yeshua's name, amen. And that's the show. Thanks for dealing with my interesting work schedule. You know, the reliability of the Monday, Wednesday, Friday briefs are going to be limited for a time. I've been telling you guys here, I've been building up to this for a few weeks, but we are very busy on this side of the camera. Not just busy, but effective on this side of the camera. We have many, many things that we have to get done across the board, whether that's Bear Independent or Refuge Medical or Grindstone or Caleb House. And my ability to sit calmly in front of a camera and espouse upon all the shenanigans of the world is hindered because of that. And so I don't know when I'll see you again. But in the meanwhile, if you could please share the show, I would greatly appreciate it. And check out Patreon. I think you'll find value in it. And I will see y'all when I see y'all. Shalom, everyone.